Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Freaky Friday edition of The Rundown. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, but as you all know, I don't do this program alone.
Hey, my name is Mike Borski. I'll be your co-host for today, and it's not Hump Day. I just like saying that.
You
I
just
just like
like
saying Hump
saying
Day.
you just like saying Hump Day.
I just like
That's
saying Hump Day.
all it is. Maybe for Freaky Friday, maybe we need to add in Scoop. There it is.
Oh, there we go. Scoop. There it is. Vanilla Rocky Road.
Exactly. Let's celebrate
Cheers.
sprinkles.
Guys. Scoop. There it is.
So, how are things going for you, Mr. Peworski?
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. You know the standard weekly drama going on in any household. Just seems like we got a bunch of it here this week. But you know what? It's all behind me, and we're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to give you Friday's finest.
Bruh, let me tell you, look, ain't no drama like family drama, because family drama don't stop.
Oh, don't stop the drama rock, baby, because we got it going on here.
Excellent. Well, for me, I'm looking forward to kind of just chilling this week. Yesterday my wife and I went and we got the our second COVID shot. So it's kind of funny. She's kind of still dealing with some of the challenges of it. Me personally, I'm feeling just fine. So all is good. All is good.
Hold on, let's see here. I think I can do this. Let me see if this works. Yeah, I got.
Okay, I love it. I officially love it. Yeah,
look.
okay, well, that
You
shot,
figured it
I
out?
still have not had my first one today. Of course, it's a little earlier here for me than it is there for you.
Yeah, but I know a wise man said it. One day. That's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It is definitely 5 o'clock somewhere.
Listen, the only thing that beats day drinking, Craig, is day drinking at work. So
Okay, sir. Well, on that note, before you get before you get
again,
too
prop, folks,
spirited,
it's iced
yeah,
tea. It's all right.
right, yeah. Before you get too spirited, let's go ahead and get into today's news. All right, now we all know everybody knows that there's been a rash lately. It seems like of incidents of violence involving firearms. What do you call them? Mass casualty events. I don't call them mass shootings. I call them mass incidents of violence or mass casualty events involving firearms. But in this particular case, the anti-gun community never ceases to amaze me how quickly they are willing to seize upon a tragedy in order to pass something that would have done absolutely nothing to address that tragedy. And we've seen exactly that happen in the state of Colorado, where they've passed a couple of bills just literally almost days after the most recent incident they've used that in order to pass legislation that would have done absolutely nothing to prevent the shootings that took place in Colorado.
Because you know what we need to end the violence around guns, Craig? We need one more law. One more law. Or in this case, in Colorado, two more laws. Like you said, Craig, this legislation was introduced there prior to the shooting at the supermarket in Boulder. But neither one of these, now that they're passed, would have prevented or stopped the shooting. Neither one of them would have had any bearing on it. The first portion of this was, now if you have a firearm stolen from you, you have to report that it was stolen. Okay, first off, Craig, who's not reporting anything that gets stolen, especially a firearm? That's not an issue. It's never been a problem. It's kind of like, well, you know what? Let's pass a law that says the sun must come up every morning. It's going to happen no matter what. We don't need a law for that.
Well, but even worse, it's you're victimizing you're victimizing the victim. You're criminalizing the victim because they've already been robbed, and now if they don't report it within a specific period of time, they're now guilty of a crime.
Yeah. Let's say they go on vacation or they're out of town, or it's a gun that I keep locked in a drawer somewhere, and I didn't discover it was gone for a month. Now I'm a criminal. Again, you're exactly right. We're turning the law-abiding firearms owner into the criminal now, and that's what's going on with the second law as well. Is that it's a firearm secure law. Now, listen, anybody that's a responsible firearm owner or a responsible Second Amendment advocate will tell you if the firearm is not on you, it should be secured. It should be locked away. The federal government already has a law. It's called the Youth Handgun Safety Act. The Youth Handgun Safety Act. Every time you buy a firearm, you have to get a lock with it with a brand new gun. Anytime you buy a pistol, you have to get a lock with it no matter what. That's the law from FFLs. They give you the lock. Now, if you use it, great. When your firearm's not in use, that's great. Maybe you just lock your gun in the safe. Maybe you just keep your gun on you at all times. That's all right also. You have positive control of your firearm. What they've done in Colorado is they've created the Colorado Juvenile Safety Act for firearms. Guess what? They just copied another federal law, and that's already in effect. There's already a crime. It's already a crime. So we're going to make a law that says, you know what's already a crime? It's a crime too.
Well,
neither one of these would have had any effect at all on the most recent shooting.
Because
all we're doing is making criminals out of victims.
Well, and because the way in which to end violence with firearms is more laws. And if those laws don't work, well, then we need to pass more laws.
That's right.
Because that's how it works.
Yeah, this last one, this juvenile law, and again, neither one of us, Craig, I think, have any issue with locking up your firearms when you're not using them. That's not an issue here. That's what the responsible gun owner does. But they've literally said, Craig, they've run out of new laws to write. They've literally said, okay, listen, the law says you can't leave a firearm unsecure around a juvenile. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a law that says you can't leave a firearm unsecure around a juvenile. They just wrote the same law again.
Right. Well, what's crazy is literally, especially when it comes to accidental firearm injuries or deaths, is at a dramatic all-time low.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you trying to stop here?
Well, listen, somebody wanted to get their name on a law. That's what happened.
Right.
Look, I am anti-gun, and I created these laws, and you should vote for me again.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I want to pass more laws that will do absolutely nothing except infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens. You know, one proposal that's been out there, and it's one that I quite frankly am surprised that we have not seen more of, is the idea of increasing regulation or taxation of ammunition. And one of the stories that we have linked here is actually just an op-ed that's really kind of based on, quite frankly, a comedy routine by Chris Rock, where he talks about taxing bullets. If you make bullets expensive, well, then people will stop shooting them. And well, that's a proposal that actually is being given some life in some states.
Yeah, listen, it's already a law there in California, right? Don't you have to pay an extra background check fee on your ammunition when you purchase it? And we know in Washington State, they tried to pass this also before Second Amendment Foundation got it overturned. They were putting taxes on the ammunition, additional taxes on the ammunition. So, listen, this is, this guy writes this article, Craig, and I don't know if it's a guy or girl. I have no idea, because like you said, it's an anonymous op-ed, but it says, here's a new innovative way. We'll tax the ammunition. Like all of a sudden this epiphany happened and this person solved all the world's problems. Okay, listen, knucklehead, this is akin to saying, we're gonna ban gasoline. Gasoline we're banning, but you can still own your car. That's cool. That's all right. And guess what? There's no constitutional right to a car. This is easy. The Supreme Court and all the other courts have said ammunition and firearms are linked together. They come under the same category. You can't just say, well, you know what? We're gonna let you have guns, but we're gonna ban triggers. Oh, come on.
Well, exactly. That's what's going on here. And once again, it's all about infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens, because, in the end, what you want is you want individuals who have firearms. If they own a firearm and they potentially one day are going to need to use it to defend themselves, you're going to want them to have trained, to be able to make sure that when they do use it, that they're going to be able to hit whatever it is that they're aiming at. And unfortunately, when you make it so that people can't afford, or let me clarify, when people who might be low income or have limited resources are not able to train, you increase the likelihood that bad things could happen in the event that they do need to use their firearm in self-defense.
Listen, if you don't like firearms and you don't like guns, you know what? Don't buy one. Don't go to the range. Don't practice. We're cool with that. We have no problem if you don't want to use a gun. Nobody's going to force this on you. But because you don't like my ownership of a firearm, you want to try and find new and innovative ways to keep me from having it. Guess what? Just, stay home, get yourself a nice steel door, put it on your house, put some, ballistic windows on your house and protect yourself. if you fear it that much. Listen, this guy's sitting at home or girl's sitting at home right now, Craig, in their own house wearing 3 masks. I can see it right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, probably so. And, once again, they are operating based on a false narrative. And once again, that false narrative is that there are law-abiding citizens who are out there who are let me clarify, that guns are out there perpetuating violence upon people. And what the problem is that that's not what's happening. There are people out there perpetuating acts of violence on people, and the tools that they've chosen many of them have chosen to use their firearms. And they think that by regulating the tool that they'll stop the people from inflicting violence. And the problem is that all they're going to do is find another tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't they just pass a law to outlaw evil? We could end it all, right?
Well, exactly. What winds up happening, though, is people, once again, look to use another tool. In some cases, that tool is a knife. In fact, in England, what we're seeing is you've seen a dramatic increase in stabbings over the last few years that have taken place. In fact, there's an incident that happened right here in the good old U.S. of A. That has actually, been in the headlines. It's an incident that took place where a young woman got into a fight with 2 other young women, decided to defend herself with a knife, or I won't say defend herself. She decided to attack them with a knife. Law enforcement shows up, and to be honest, as the young woman is about to rear back and stab the other young lady with the knife, the officer shoots her and takes her life in order to defend the other woman. In fact, take a quick look here at the body cam footage, and you can get an idea. In case you haven't seen it, it's a little squeamish, but in case you haven't seen it, check it out real quick.
The situation unfolded rapidly, as seen here on the body camera video, warned by the officer who pulled the trigger, making the split-second decision to use deadly force on Bryant, who was holding a knife in her right hand and appeared ready to stab another teenage girl. Columbus police say Officer Reardon was hired in December of 2019. State investigators will determine if the officer made the right decision. We showed News4Jack's crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson the video. In his opinion, he says the shooting was justified.
So now, Mike, I'm looking at this, and it looks to me like the officer did the best he could with the information that he had, and realized, look, one or two things was going to happen. If he shot, he would defend the life or protect the life of the girl who's about to get stabbed. And if he didn't shoot, she was going to die, and he may or may not have had to eventually also take the life of the young lady with the knife.
But why didn't he just shoot her in the leg?
Or in the hand?
Yeah, or didn't he shoot her in the hand? He could have shot the knife out of her hand. Why didn't he use the taser? Why didn't he, get in his car and bump her away from the other girl? I've heard so many ridiculous stories on this one. I think the tweet I saw the most was, teens are going to use knives to fight each other, but that's not something that police need to be involved in. What? Where? Well, Somalia? Where's this happening?
I'm just going to put it to you this way: unless a generational thing has changed, and this is a running joke amongst in the black. It's a running joke where it's like, now brothers don't use knives in fights. I'm just saying it's a running joke. So those of you who are out there getting all offended and stuff, yes, I'm being funny.
That's it.
But the point is,
my butt's hurt. My butt hurts.
I grew up in Richmond, California, which at the time was known for having more murders of any city its size. And I can tell you this, no, we did not have knife fights as a regular thing.
I don't know where that came from. Fireworks fights, maybe. They would shoot Roman candles at each other, or rock fights, but never had knife fights like this. This is really crazy. I mean, I think we all did the knife through the knuckles thing at one point, but that was not a knife fight. That was just being stupid.
That was just being stupid. I agree with you. But, there's a couple of things that really kind of frustrate me about watching this whole thing. The first thing is that you've got an instance where here's an individual who they're so hell-bent on demonizing law enforcement that here you have a situation where an individual comes and he literally saved not just the young lady who was about to be stabbed, but had he not been there, how many other people would have been victimized or would have been stabbed and potentially killed by this young lady with a knife? I mean, just a week before, in Ohio, there was a young lady who was stabbed, cut across the throat, and bled to death. And there was no law enforcement there to stop that from happening.
Yeah, and
I'm thinking this cop saved lives.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, it was, listen, the 911 call came in, and listen, it wasn't just this other girl. It wasn't girl versus girl. There was a mother involved. There was a grandmother involved. This was crazy girl with a knife, or crazy woman with a knife, 16-year-old with a knife that was out there trying to stab. But there was the 911 call, but it's almost as if the 911 call might have been altered a little bit from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, no. So if you go and you look at, and that leads us into our next story. NBC News put out a version of the 911 call where they completely decided to ignore the fact that they just said, we need the police to come out here. Totally ignored the fact that they mentioned that there was a woman out there trying to stab him. Here, the first one you see here is going to be the one edited by NBC News, and then the second video you're going to see is the 911 call with all of the information. Check it out.
December of 2019 was responding to a 911 call.
We need a police officer here now.
Video shows Reardon approaching a group of young people in this driveway.
Police say they were responding to a 911 call about someone who had a knife.
These grown girls over here trying to fight us, trying to stab us.
So now, Mike, you deal a lot with media. I mean, you're in the media. I mean, what is the value? What is the idea behind editing out that information in this 911 call?
Well, it's pretty simple, Craig. If I break the story and I get the story out there first, and I'm the first one to put it out there, and I know I put my version out there or my spin on it, even if I know it's an error or it's fraudulent like this is or misleading like this is, that's what 90% of the people are going to see. Maybe if I do a retraction or a correction later, maybe 10% will see that part. But I could flat out lie and put that story out right now, and I know that of the total viewers that will ever know about this story, 90% are going to believe the lie I put out first. Maybe 10% later, like I said, will get that little bit of, oh, I found on the back page a correction here, or there's something about a lawsuit here that NBC got sued over it. Remember, the same thing happened with George Zimmerman. Remember, after 911 tapes were changed,
right,
so they could make publicity money on it.
Well, even just in the whole entire way in which they approach the story. I mean, here you look at this image right here of Lester Holt, who's got 60, this image of this, beautiful young lady sitting there, the evil cop car next, in the picture next to her, and it says, 16-year-old killed by police. Right. It doesn't say 16-year-old with a knife.
Right.
Shot by police officer. It doesn't say law enforcement officer saves young black woman's life.
Right.
Or save young black woman from being stabbed. I mean, how exactly do you put out a narrative like this that is so completely devoid of the truth?
Well, listen, the bosses at these media organizations have determined that the way that we want you to be a reporter, the way that we want you to be a journalist, is to bring the most viewership to us. And if that means we've got to change the story a little bit or tell the narrative the way we want, that's it. It has nothing to do with journalistic integrity now. That before, if you didn't source a story out 2-3 times and it didn't pass through the editor's desk as being 100% true, your butt was on the side of the road. You got fired. Now, hey, listen, young journalist here, you only got 10,000 clicks this month. We need you to have 50,000. If you don't get that clickbait up, then you're going to be gone.
Right. Well, and by the way, that leads me to the next thing. And this is, I'm a big believer in, if you don't know something about something, you shouldn't be out pontificating on it. Or at the very least, be very, very careful when you have a platform. Be very careful about what you say and what you put out there. And for some reason, we have decided as a society today that we want our entertainers and our athletes to get involved and engaged in commentary on issues of the day. Now, one such case in relating to what we've just been talking about is LeBron James, who decided to put out this tweet, basically showing the photo of the officer who saved a young black woman's life, and talking about accountability and you're next, basically issuing a threat against this officer, who saved a young woman's life. And now he's since removed the tweet. And at the same time, he's blaming the people who are criticizing him for, quote unquote, promoting hate.
Yeah, LeBron should be arrested over this. Flat out, LeBron should be arrested over this. There's laws protecting, home addresses, identity of law enforcement officers. Many states now are viewing that when a law enforcement officer has to use what they allege is excessive force, which is required force to keep somebody from being protected. That makes the officer the victim. Now, if you've got LeBron outing this officer or whatever you want to call it and making threats, they should flat up arrest him. He should go to jail. I'm sure there's a public corruption, threats of a public official or whatever in that state, and LeBron should go to jail for this.
Well, but what makes it even worse is, okay, come back and say, you know what? I apologize. I didn't have all of the information. I probably shouldn't have put that out there. Instead, he comes back and says, well, people are promoting hate. No, you know what? No, I'll say this. You're right. People hate stupid people who put out information, ignorant information, people who put out information devoid of fact, acting like they know what's going on. And we also, quite frankly, hate people who have a public platform, who think because they're very good at one thing that they're a know-it-all in everything else. Look, I don't want to hear any more about what an athlete has to say about cultural or political issues or law enforcement issues any more than I want to hear a cop pontificate on sports, right? Stay in your lane. And I get this is all our country, it's all of our lane, but when you have a public platform, the size that he has, you have an even greater responsibility. And when you do stuff like this, you demonstrate irresponsibility.
You demonstrate ignorance. Is what you do. Like you said, because they're going into this without having all of the facts. This is something that he got fed. Listen, he just hears a little bit of this stuff now, and he's jumping on this wagon. He's decided that he's going to be the champion of all police excessive force complaints and deadly force use by the police. That's his thing now. That's what he's going to be known for. I don't even know what team the guy plays for anymore because I haven't followed basketball in forever. But you listen, he could take the cues from a couple of great, some historic, athletes in the United States. Going back, listen, we just celebrated Jackie Robinson Day. We know that Jackie's first 2-3 years that Branch Rickey asked him to be quiet so they could, bring him into the league. But Jackie Robinson became one of the greatest civil rights activists this country ever saw. Listen, even Michael Jordan, with the way he dealt with certain issues, it wasn't out there throwing people under the bus. It was, listen, I think his quote was, Republicans buy shoes too, but you damn sure know that Michael Jordan funded, juvenile centers and youth centers and everything across the country to try and get the same opportunities for the poorer people than the people that been born into finances. So right. And there's just so many others in between that have done so well. Except LeBron wants to continue to throw slaps and punches without even knowing the facts. This guy should be in jail.
Well, and I will say this. There are a lot of athletes who I know would probably like to comment on stuff like this that don't, because they recognize they don't know it all. They realize they don't have all the information. Some of them agree with you and me, and some of them don't agree with you and I.
Right.
But the thing is that they recognize that they have a platform and they have to be responsible for it. And when you get to the point where you are a mega star like LeBron James, you feel like you don't have to be responsible. And when I say responsible, you don't necessarily have to say something, but if you're going to say something, make sure you're well informed.
Right.
And he just demonstrated ignorance, and then on top of it, with his response in pulling down the tweet, demonstrated arrogance. And both of them are vices, not virtues.
Yeah.
Which, by
Yeah,
the way, leads me leads me into our parting shot. I think we need to award one of these to Mr. LeBron James. Check it out. So, Mike, you were the one who found this one.
He should wear that right there. Right there. Where is the Facebook badge? Right there. Yep.
Put it right there. Put it right there on his Lakers uniform.
Yep,
That's what he should do with it. But that's really what it's worth, because in the end, here's the thing. Whenever one of these incidents has come up, one of the first things I do is I go to the people who I know who are trainers or who are former law enforcement, and I try to get their perspective. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all of how I form my opinion, but they're experts in that area. And so I want to know what they think and get their particular perspective before I go and I form and I shape my own, because they have a perspective that I don't know. They have an expertise that I don't have.
Right.
Yeah. And then on top of it, then I wait for all of the information to come out, or at least I try to. I try to get as much information as I can, because in the end, there's a lot of stuff. Here's the thing: you don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, you got your known knowns, right?
Right.
You got your known unknowns, then you got your unknown knowns, and then the unknown unknowns. And for those that are a history student, that's Donald Rumsfeld said all of that nonsense during a briefing one day about terrorism, and everybody in the room was like, "What did this old fool just say?"
But it's true. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly right.
And so why not, instead of all right, hanging this officer or lynching this officer before the information, everything's even come out, why not sit back and wait and say, you know what? Yes, it is tragic that a young woman, not even an adult yet, has lost her life, right? Is dead, right? But hey, we also know that at least one other young woman's life has been saved.
At least, at a minimum. Yep.
At least, at a minimum. So
Yep.
Why not let all of the information come out? Let's get all the information. Let the investigations be done, and we'll see exactly what happened. And I think that's exactly what we should have let happen in the George Floyd case, where basically, guess what? He's going to jail.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole jury pool was tainted day one, day two, when the attorney general stepped in and decided she was going to take charge of Hennepin County's case. So just that, all that thing is set for is for really good appeals at this point.
Yeah. No. I'll tell you this. Yes, it's set up for appeals. I don't believe it'll be appealed. I think if there's one, the ones that are going to be a challenge are going to be the murder 2 and maybe the murder 3.
Yeah.
I thought that the manslaughter was a slam dunk. That was just my perspective based on what was presented.
Yeah, we'll see. But again, I think you may be right there. Again, I didn't see everything the jury saw, and I might have seen more than what the jury saw, because that's the nature of television there.
Right.
But you know what? If the jury's tainted, it doesn't matter. Let's get him a fair trial. I don't believe he saw a fair trial there.
That is an excellent point. You make an excellent point there. But once again, I'm not a legal expert, so I will not be putting on my badge.
Right.
I won't claim to be claim to be a legal expert.
Yep. Absolutely right. Now, the difference is, folks, these are our opinions, and this is what we do. We bring you our opinions based on our knowledge, skills, and abilities, our experiences. I'm not out here trying to stir the pot and point the blame at a cop and expose who he is and let you go to his house and throw pig's blood at it. That's not what we're doing. This is what we are. It's like a sportscaster, like Craig said, talks about sports. Well, guess what? We're opinion editors, opinion columnists here, opinion journalists. This is what we do for you. You ask for these questions and want to know our opinions. We give them to you. LeBron, stick to basketball.
Well,
take your money and do like everybody else did and help the community. Absolutely right. But should you be throwing people under the bus like this? I don't think so.
Well, you're right. And it's once again, Mike, not just opinions, but informed opinions. Individuals who've worked and dealt with firearms legislation, people who've dealt with use of force and use of force policy, people who have connections to and communicate regularly with those who are experts in those areas and trainers in those areas.
Right.
So once again, if you're going to pontificate in public, when you have a platform, it ought to be informed. And I love it, man. The funniest thing to me is that when someone who I know knows absolutely nothing about what they're talking about decides they want to chime in on something and tell me, who spent a good portion of my adult life dealing with a lot of whatever the particular issue is, tell me what is and is not the case.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. Craziness, crazy talk. Yep.
Yes, sir. And that's why we call it Freaky Friday.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, folks. Well, hey, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the program. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the program. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rundown. Once again, please remember, whether you watch us on YouTube or you're watching us on Facebook, please remember, like, share, subscribe, like, share, subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you all on Monday.
Talk to you guys later.